All right. Hey, everyone. I'm here today with Tim Jasinski and Steve Thorne from Paradigm Direct, who, not to be confused with Paradigm Press, two very different businesses. These guys are the original Paradigm. You guys have been around for quite a
Exactly.
while. I mean, honestly, like, so for anyone in the direct response space, you guys have been like, what? When did you guys start in direct response as a business?
Over 25 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you started where doing
I
like,
I I started I started right when infomercials were reborn. In 1984, the FCC
mhm.
changed the length of advertising and basically the 30-minute infomercials were booming. And that's I got into the business in 1985.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, you were there, you rode that whole wave of, like, the infomercials, which was an
Oh, yeah.
amazing time.
It was a fun time. Yeah.
Tim created the wave, man. I mean, he
You were I
created the
mean,
wave.
but, like, you worked with all the big groups back then, right?
We did, yeah, yeah, yeah. Across the spectrum, one of my mentors was the co-founder of Ronco with Ron Popeil. So, back in, all kinds of
The
gadgets,
legend.
Ginsu knives, and all that stuff. Back then, eventually finding my love for more of the info space, more of
Mhm.
two systems, and that's what I really kind of gradually moved into specializing in.
Yeah. So that's I mean, honestly, like, it's such a fascinating thing just because you got people like you guys who are, like, have this amazing experience in the space and have seen like, you've seen so many changes, right? From, like, the mediums changing, the market's changing, the audience changing, uh has the messaging changed fundamentally, do you think,
Mm.
over that period of time?
I don't, direct response is direct response.
Yeah,
I
greed and
think that,
fear, right?
yeah. I mean, you constantly have to pivot to what's going on, in any market, no matter what you're selling.
Mhm.
Obviously, the financial space is really sensitive to that.
Yeah,
But that's how you sell. That's what we're
yeah.
used to.
So, why don't you give everyone an overview, for the people who don't know you, an overview of what you guys do?
Yeah. You want me to take that or you want to go, Tim?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So, super 30,000 foot background, John. People who know us know this, so I'll be pretty brief. But Tim and I both been in the direct to consumer marketing for, like I said, 25 years. And there was always a portion of our business that was in the financial services. But as Tim mentioned, we worked, in the real estate space, we work in the small business space, in the info space, in the gadget space, right? And a lot of it all at the same time, right? Managing multiple campaigns. Over that 20 foot, we were doing some high level math over that 25 years. We're not like the big dogs, right? Over 25 years, we've done about $2.5 billion in direct to consumer sales, right? Some of the companies in this space, they do that every 3 or 4 years, right? Right. It took us a long time to do it, but we've really the last 10 years kind of focused our business solely 100% into the financial services space
Mhm.
and taking all of the learnings, how to attack that direct to consumer market, right? From all of those various products and services. I think one of the things that collectively, particularly over the last 10 years, that we've perfected is that front end marketing machine, that customer acquisition machine,
Mhm.
particularly for the kinds of clients that we serve, the partners that we have, not the end users, but the brands that we're marketing behind. Um, these guys have phenomenal products and services, excellent track records. Most of our sales presentations, we actually allow the clients to see the last 10 or 15 years of the track record prior to purchasing, right? So that's a huge advantage that we have, right, in terms of marketing because the track records are so good. Um, but it really allows us to go out there and do things on television predominantly and radio. And I was fortunate enough for 20 years, I've worked with Tim in various campaigns. And 10 years ago, we kind of formalized our partnership in Paradigm.
Mhm.
And he's the best television producer for this space I have ever seen. He's really, really, he knows how to enter the conversation that's going on in people's heads, just innate. So that it's a real advantage.
Yeah, I mean,
So
we always you always start with kind of the end in mind and reverse engineer things, right? It's like because these funnels are pretty long, you know, ultimately what you want to achieve and do with the leads, and we just reverse engineer the funnel starting from the very beginning, making sure that we're getting the right prospect, moving them in the right direction, getting them in the right mindset.
So, like, your basic model then is that you work with, a publishing partner, right? Somebody who's a guru or whatever, right? And then you're using primarily TV and radio to drive sales or leads into the funnels. So you're building the funnels and driving the traffic that way. Um,
Mhm.
so to me, this is fascinating for a bunch of reasons. One, making TV and radio work as a traffic source is wildly underutilized, um, in
Agreed.
general.
Agreed.
Uh, Two, I think that one of the trends that we're starting to see pretty much around the internet everywhere is the power of offline coming back, right? Things like that, like direct mail, um,
Mm.
TV, radio. I think that the attention and the opportunities, right, in TV and everything have gotten more interesting. Um, how do you see that? Do you see that as like becoming a growing segment again, in general?
Would you take that to?
I don't, I think, I mean, TV is our core expertise. It's just,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people don't get into it because it's expensive to get into. It's expensive to test. You have to really know what you're doing, or you can run out of money real quick before you get to
Yeah.
any kind of, meaningful results. So, so we're blessed that we've got so many years of experience in it. But it's the space has changed. Like the long form world has shrunk dramatically with infomercials and stuff over time.
Hmm.
For us, the TV, I think TV is always going to be a big part of us. It's one of our kind of our superpowers, from our
Hmm.
perspective. But the combination of being able to combine TV with all of your online efforts, and when you really look at the halo effect and the lift and the way that all those omni channels work together, it's pretty amazing. It's attribution is harder than it's ever been, right? When you have all those different sources. So we have a lot of different fuzzy attribution models that we're constantly evolving and working on.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity in the space. You just have to really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then like, what kind of people are you publishing? Like, what are it's financial, I know, but like, what's the
Yeah, here's these are two of our main books out right
nice.
now. Unbreakable Investor with Charles Payne, and It's Not an Option with John Pete Nigerian.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So what's that look like then? You're driving ads into a funnel to get the books, or are the books like free with shipping kind of offer?
Correct. Hmm.
Nice.
Yep. Yep. So that
And
so
yeah.
yeah, that leads into the top funnel with with a few different upsells and stuff there,
Hmm.
and then pushes to our back end events.
Okay. Oh, so you do in-person events or online events
No,
or
they're one to many
Online.
events online.
and I guess how's TV and how have these lead sources have they tracked kind of the overall pattern that we've seen with everybody else over the last few years where you had the COVID boom and then you had the bust and then kind of the crawl back? Is it seem to kind of fit the same pattern for advertising?
As far as the front end acquisition or
Yeah,
the
just as,
the
as
lead?
the acquisition to sales, like the whole like conversion, like like right now we were talking before the call, like you guys are having a boom kind of time again. A lot of the industry is having some of their best months ever. We're seeing like
Yeah.
groups break the $100 million mark again. Like it's really like we seem to be back into kind of that growth mode right now. Um, but we did have that traumatic 2022 period. And I'm just curious, like have you like with these traffic sources, they kind of track the same kind of path, right? In
To an
general.
to an extent. I mean, I think we're blessed to work with such credible experts that that people really know, like, and trust and rely on, that
Mhm.
even in the tough times, I mean, in the tough times more than even in the good times, people need to know who to follow, right?
Right.
And that's and so, part of our expertise is just really, trying to make these campaigns evergreen. In the infomercial world, we had campaigns that would run sometimes 7 to 10 years. And so it's like you just have to constantly evolve to what's going on in the market, right? And you're never going to stop investing. So you
Mhm.
just, it's, and Charles is such an advocate. He's kind of that cool hand Luke, man of reason, and that's why people love him, because a lot of people have made the most of their biggest returns in the toughest of times, just because they
Right.
kept their head, and they've followed the rules.
Nice. Um, where do you think, like, is your model fundamentally different, do you think, than a lot I mean, once you get to the lead gen side, once the names come in, is it fundamentally different than what you see other people doing? Is it, you have your funnels, is it a funnel based, or is it funneled into a newsletter? Like, how are you guys kind of handling that once they come in to the system?
You want to take that?
Sure. Yeah. I would say yes and no. I think the front end, right? I think there are so many people in the financial marketing niche that are using predominantly online, right?
Mhm.
And we do deploy some of that, but um, most of our customer acquisition up front, comes from the sale of these books, right? Or the free plus model. And then of course there's a warming sequence. If I go back, 10 years ago, we were probably 80% dependent on monetizing through telesales. At one point, we had 200 telesales reps, right? Following up on all the campaigns. And now we have less than 10% that, and 90% of our revenue is driven through the webinars. So we have a huge percentage of these book buyers that, as they're consuming the book, we're doing an invitation, right, to attend the webinar. We have several professional speakers, and we're converting. So it's probably a model that feels relatively similar to what a lot of people are doing. Perhaps the functionality of dropping people into the top of the funnel looks a little bit different.
Mhm.
And I think what we build on the back end may be a little bit different because,
Right.
um, as I mentioned a lot, and Tim mentioned, Charles and John and Pete, we work with mastermind.com, which is a Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins. It's not really a financial services per se, but we have a tax and entity and estate planning division also that
Mhm.
helps in the monetization, right, for their
Right.
upper tier clients. And we've kind of had to vertically integrate probably more than we would like to. Even it's been it's been good at the end of the day, but it's been kind of a forced vertical integration, meaning because these guys are a lot of our clients are very visible.
Mhm.
They don't do a lot of list swapping, right? And
Right.
JV. So we have to go deep instead of wide.
Interesting. Okay.
Does that make sense? And
Yeah, that
so
makes sense.
in the webinars, we're selling their services. We build out for each of these clients an education component that they didn't have before. And I think
Mhm.
one of the huge, and Tim could speak more to this, but one of the huge value adds for most of these clients in monetizing is they've got their service. So we're selling their service for them. It's a trade alert service, it's an option service, it's a dividend service, whatever that might be.
Mhm.
And then we're adding that education component on there. One, it's additional revenue. And then we have all of the coaches that train the students. We create a sense of community. It increases the renewal rate for the annually subscribing services, right? And then it's a really easy, because they've kind of got this sense of community. It's real easy to drop in. Hey, if you don't have somebody doing your taxes, you're going to need that. Here's our accounting service. If you haven't set up an entity to trade, if that's something that makes sense for you, given your situation, it's not for everybody, obviously.
Mhm.
Everybody needs an estate plan. You should have that. Here are my guys. And so these guys make those recommendations. And so the monetization goes really deep. And in some cases, it exceeds what they were doing with their business before, just with the ads, right?
Right.
webinars, with the tax and estate, with the education, with the subscription services. So we've been really fortunate to be, again, we didn't start out this way, but it was kind of a natural byproduct of having to go super deep,
Yeah.
No.
and it's
That's
worked out.
yeah, I love that you guys have because you're kind of you have a diversified product line in a way that we don't see FinPubs diversifying. I feel you like your product ladder up into like high price coaching is something that we'll see more of.
Sure, sure,
Um,
yeah.
and I don't know what price points are you getting like the 5,000 plus range on those or what right now, like
Yep, 4.
and then but you have like that tax piece um in estate planning like that to me is such an interesting thing that you've added because clearly that's core to who our traditional newsletter, the investment newsletter um, demographic like is, especially at the stages of life that they're at. Like, this is a really interesting service business, and service business backends is not something that we see very much in FinPub, right? At all.
Yeah.
Um, so, like, how did you decide to do that? Like, where did that come from?
You know, most of that's a business that we've kind of been on the periphery of for a long time. And for a long time, we outsourced that.
Mhm.
And, just like a lot of businesses, right? If you find a great partner, sometimes outsourcing can be the absolute right decision. For us, we went through a couple of partners. Let's just say they weren't the right partner. That's a really nice way to say they were terrible. And we decided to bring it in house about 8 years ago. And the nice thing about that too, that may be appealing to you know some of the relationships we could develop via FMS is, um, we have about an 85% renewal rate when once we get somebody into tax, because our CPAs are working solely with investor clients. Right now, they're professionals. A lot of them have full
Right.
time jobs as well, and they own real estate or this or that or whatever, but they know how to help these folks maximize their tax situation because we're doing thousands of returns every year
Mm.
just for investors. So that's a nice ad for us, and we're trying to build our continuity revenue. Everybody's
Mhm.
trying to build their recurring revenue, right? And for a lot of people in this space, I think this is, if they haven't done it, it's something that they ought to consider because it's so sticky. Because it's like changing your immersion processor, right?
It's
It's a pain. You don't want to do it.
so I love so
Mhm.
it's interesting because I can't speak today. Um, there's a parallel stickiness with wealth advisory clients. The
Yeah.
problem with that, because we see like when people who do that, they have an 80 to 90% renewal. The
Yeah.
problem
Yeah.
with that is that everybody that I know who does it also has to deal with like regulatory issues where even if it's a completely separate business than the FinPub, on the wealth advisor side, they always end up in a state where like, well, the regulators want to look at everything from the FinPub too. And that's always a sticky issue in a
Yeah.
negative
Yeah.
way. Um, and so some people will handle it because it's worth it to them, and some people are just like, I'm going to wash my hands of this. But this side of it is you have less of that. There's still obviously regulatory issues, but you have less of the direct problem between having an advisory service and a FinPub, right? In the marketing issues, and so like to have that stickiness and to have a service based business on the back, that is a really cool model you guys have.
It's very very holistic, right? It's the
Yeah.
same thing with the education. It's like the trading and alert services are phenomenal, but like a lot of people, if they don't understand how to trade and everything else, they
Hmm.
jump into these services, and the first time they have a bad experience, they're wanting to cancel. Right.
Right.
What we find with the education is that
Mm.
it really takes things to the next level, right? Because if they believe in the system, they believe in what they're doing, they're going to stick with the alert service longer.
Hmm.
They're going to understand, really how it works. And that's been a big thing for us with adding, adding the education. We have 4 full-time instructors, amazing LMS, a very robust system for that that is customized for each experts, individual systems. But
Hmm.
when I interview people, our testimonials, they just rave about how important that education was to their success with the alert service.
Yeah. Yeah, such as Mike Ward, who was the publisher over at Money Map, he's kind of a legendary figure inside of Agora. He came from Rodale Press years ago first, and he always makes this distinction between like a special audience publication and a special interest publication. And he says like he likes to do personally is special interest publications, right? So investing is a special interest. It doesn't matter what your demographics are. Good investing is good investing. Um, but then there is also very large groups that do special audience. And special audience that you can think of as like, I mean, AARP, right? Like they're serving a retired audience. And when you guys start looking at like these other service businesses, it strikes me that it is a bit of the special audience approach. Like you understand that this audience has other needs. And so you're going to add other services and products that fit the needs of that audience. Um, that isn't necessarily directly, I mean, I guess it's investor related because you're doing taxes for investors. So
Right.
it kind of is that bridge, but it is looking at the audience, like you said, more holistically, to find additional revenue opportunities. And I love that. I think that's cool.
Well, and what you suggested earlier, the difficulty with tying a publisher marketing relationship with the advisor, it's the reason we've investigated it multiple times, and we always end up with the same challenge that you taught. We run into that wall, like it's just from a regulatory standpoint, it's not worth, the risk reward meter just doesn't feel like it can
Mhm.
swing in the right direction for us. So that's another reason why looking for really, really good products and services that people need and they're going to use every year.
Mhm.
The education, the tax, even with the estate plans, updating that, right? The service fees associated with updating that on a maybe not every year, but every couple of year basis. Um, Really, for our business, they've really enhanced the stability of the business with that recurring revenue, right? And for each of our partners as well. I mean, it makes a big difference. It's not like selling the subscriptions. I don't want to get, mislead
Right.
anybody, but it's a very significant revenue add, and it increases the lifetime value of those clients dramatically over time.
Yeah. No, I bet that's awesome. So, you talk about your partners and you have some big names. Um, how are you working with your like what do these partnerships look like in general? Just like broad strokes. Like how do you work with people? How do you decide who to work with? What kind of folks you're coming out, you guys are coming down to FMS again. Um, and you're looking to connect with folks. Like who are you trying to connect with? And like what kind of like if you had your perfect prospect or for a possible partnership and say, hey, this is what we could do for you. Who does that guy look like or girl? Um,
Go ahead, Tim. You can start that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not, FMS. We're very excited to come down to FMS again. Our main goals there are probably not necessarily to look for new clients per se. We have different channels for that. It's more for partnerships with marketing.
okay.
Really would be our goals down there. So connecting with some more CPC partners. We do some rolling launches, that we're looking to grow our JV base for.
Hmm.
Some of the stuff that Steve's been talking about with the tax and estate and our education platform. We've been working very hard to expand that to be able to start to work with other clients,
Okay.
possibly be able to work with some of the larger people at FMS to expand their revenue streams with some of those products by working with us. So those are some of
Okay.
the type of partnerships we're looking for down there.
So you're looking for basically traffic sources and you're looking for people who might be interested in adding some of these back end service businesses, basically hands free from their side and just
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
on kind of an
We
affiliate
handle it all.
relationship with you or a partnership relationship so that you guys can kind of add this as a product line
Yeah,
to other
yeah.
folks'
We
business.
we we put a tremendous amount of effort into like the education and stuff. enhance what our clients do. I know that a lot of the FMS clients, they have newsletters, mostly digital fulfillment.
Mhm.
It's a big lift to really have a robust LMS with, 4 or 5 full-time instructors and live classes every single day, live Q&As every day, all that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. But it's a huge ad. And so, yeah, we think that could be a nice value add for clients, and we've been working up to the point of being ready to offer that to other clients.
Okay.
And we just are going to be at that point in January, so FMS is perfect time.
Nice. Awesome. That's great. So if you're interested in exploring this stuff with Tim and Steve, this is what they look like. Just when you're down there.
Reach out to us on LinkedIn if you'd like.
Yeah.
Just on LinkedIn, and we can
Yeah.
set something up and connect at FMS.
Yeah. Perfect.
Well, let me give you a little kudos too, John. I don't even know that you're aware of this. The I don't want to say the first, but the second or third event that we attended, FMS event that we attended, we're predominantly, as we've discussed, TV and radio guys. As Tim indicated a little bit earlier, that the more we spend on TV, which is a relatively significant sum with these brands, the bigger the ripple effect, right, into online, right, and social. And we had tested and tested and tested through multiple relationships, fail, 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 fail. And actually a relationship that we made at that FMS, we probably at that time we weren't spending more than, I don't know, 25, 30 grand a month on social. And now it's a couple hundred, and it's generating millions of dollars, all from just a relationship that we were able to get because of you, because
Well,
of
I
your
appreciate that.
organization. So that was a huge, huge win for us. I mean, those kinds of things I think are what you're doing is amazing, man. I mean,
Well,
it's
thanks,
it's a
man.
it's a
Thanks.
big benefit,
I
big
appreciate it.
benefit.
That's what I hope is like, I keep telling everyone, especially when I get new people, I'm like, no, just like think about like you come here if you want to do business, right? Like, especially in
Yeah.
like 2025, right? 2025, 2026, like there's a ton of content now. Like a lot of people are putting like content out. We have good folks putting good content out. The thing that really makes a difference coming in person is to be able to come meet people and do business. And we're very
Yeah.
fortunate to have people like you guys and people like, who are actually doing things. And we don't do kind of a biz op event. We don't attract people who are like, oh, I'm thinking about doing a publishing business. Like, I'm not interested in that. Never have been because you can't do business with them.
Right, right.
So that's what like. We're very fortunate to have a great community and, everyone comes together and does do business. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
That's great
we
to hear.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you. It's
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
great for us, man.
Yeah. Awesome. So, I guess, yeah, like if there's anything else, I'm happy to connect anybody, listening or watching to Tim and Steve, and we'll see you guys down in Orlando in just a few weeks, really.
You
Sounds
got
good,
it.
man. Looking forward to it.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Thanks,
Appreciate it,
guys.
John.